Hello, everyone. My name is KJ, and welcome to Great Talk and Entertainment official channel. And today is my spoiler review for the new movie by Marvel Studios slash Sony, Spider-Man: Brand New Day, which is in theaters right now. And if you have not seen this, please, let me ask y'all, why are you listening to my spoiler review if you haven't seen this movie? Definitely check that out. Because if you haven't and you're still not sure if you want to see Spider-Man Brand New Day, don't worry, I got y'all. Because I have my non-spoiler review here on the YouTube channel of Great Talk and Entertainment official channel. So definitely check that out and then go see the movie and then come back and let me know what you think about Spider-Man Brand New Days in the comments below. So this is my spoiler review. I'm gonna leave y'all with a skit, and after that skit, I'm going to go into a deep dive of Spider Man Brand New Day, scene by scene. So enjoy the skit, y'all. And this is y'all warning about this is a spoiler review for Spider Man Brand New Day. So enjoy this skit. What? Whoa, what is this? Nobody's around. Let me see what this does. No way. This is cool. Choo, choo, choo. Luke, I am your father. Choo, choo, choo. Huh, huh. Oh, God. It's not what you think. Please don't choke me out. Please, Mr. Vader, sir. I don't want this. It's all good. I'm gonna put it away. And you know what? I think we're gonna go watch Spider-Man Brand New Day. Yeah, I'm gonna go watch it. So, peace out. This film starts off with the Marvel Studio logo, and we usually in these graphics you see all the Avengers, right? You see Iron Man, Captain America, Hawkeye, Hulk, Thor, the Guardians of the Galaxies, Black Widows, Vision, so forth, so forth. Of course, Iron Man, and excluding Batman and the Green Ranger and the Red Ranger, those don't count. But you usually see those guys on that picture in the Marvel Studio graphic. But this time, they switched it up on us. They just put Spider Man in there, a lot of Spider Man, which is the whole point because they set the tone. This is like the ignition of this spaceship that's getting ready to blast off into hyperspace because they set the tone of this film for Spider Man Brand New Day as this is all about Spider Man. He is the main focus, and everybody else in this film is just a part of it. You know, this is not about their upcoming films. It's not about no Disney Plus special or upcoming show. It's all about Spider-Man and of course Spider-Man villains that we all know and low key love. You know, you love some of those villains. You know, Venom, Hobgoblin, Rhino, Scorpion, Tombstone. You know, you love them. You love them if you're a hardcore fan of Marvel Comics and all that. So, you know, you got a little love for the villains, but it's all about Spider Man. And it's about what he's going to do in New York. And it reminds you why he is your friendly neighborhood Spider Man, baby. So, so after the graphic shown, and it shows the tone. It begins where this is all about Spider Man just being alone, right? This is about Spider Man being alone and the aftermath of the multiverse mayhem that has happened because of the spell that Doctor Strange has put on, where it wipes everybody's memory about the fact that Peter Parker is Spider Man. So we all forgot. Oop, nobody remembers. Nobody remembers. The Hulk don't remember. Ned don't remember, and that's his best friend. MJ don't remember him, and that's his girlfriend. Or now we have to see ex girlfriend soon, because you'll find out why. They don't remember him, and the fact that Spider Man himself has hesitated to tell Ned and MJ what has happened since No Way Home. And the reason why is obviously because he doesn't want to break the spell, because what if all those Spider-Man villains come back? I mean, what if the Green Goblin came back? That'd be cool for me, not good for him. And then the whole world will know he's Spider-Man, and then he'll get arrested. So, gotta decide. He chose the superhero life because they don't get love. Sometimes they don't all find true love. Now, this film also, as well, is trying to show what's happening next in the MCU as far as what's going to happen. Keeping that connection with the MCU, and there's so many movies now, and with the upcoming Avengers Doomsday, it did cover all this as we see through this whole film. But I felt like Spider must feel like when he's web slinging around New York, gravity pulls him, and Spidey's downward as he exhalates himself. It has the same sense of excitement through this film to see through the eyes of Spider-Man. So, like in the first scene, he's in this like New York apartment, right? And what's happening is he's like on his computers, and he has like the digital version of a police scanner, so he's hearing the crimes. And what we're seeing here, this is a more modern day version of it, because it's like this is the year 2026 for us, right? But it's like he's using an app. uh he's having his like he has this machine that's working on his Spider-Man suit, and it kind of resembles a 3D printer. Like, the design of it looks like a 3D printer. But the only thing is it has its unrealistic things, and I'm not saying a 3D printer couldn't do this. I'm saying as far as like the comic book, fantasy part of it. And what I mean by that is, if you remember from like Spider-Man Far From Home and all the way to No Way Home, he used a bigger machine that Iron Man, aka Tony Stark, created for him so he can design and make a Spider-Man suit. But since Iron Man is gone, and everybody's memories of people knowing that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, he doesn't have that access to that uh tech, Stark tech basically. And so he created this because, again, he's a smart guy, of course. But this is a smaller version of that, and it just resembles a 3D printer. And that's because I believe that the director of this film is just trying to use modern day version technology that we all are aware of. And yeah, like, this film does promote, like the new Samsung Galaxy like flip phone. And then, like, you see the Little Caesar pizza box in this film as he orders pizza, like, because he's living they're portraying a sad, lonely Spider-Man who's single and has no girlfriend, no wife, no nothing, and apparently has no time for a social life, because obviously he's out saving the day and stopping crime. And so that's how that first scene, and like, we're seeing him narrate. of just him rereading the letter he wrote for MJ, who later in this film sees it and reads it, and they have a huge argument or just an emotional moment. But we'll get to that later. But in that scene, we see him doing that, and it just shows like what he's doing and what he's dealing with. But he feels like the safest way is to keep the loved ones he cares about safe is not to tell. As we throughout this film, he is also struggling and still dealing with the loss of his Aunt May, you know, who is like she's like this in the MCU, they're really focusing more on her as the Uncle Ben, right? Uncle Ben is a obviously well-known famous through the Marvel comics and Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, where you hear that the quote, "With great power comes great responsibility." But in this one, it's Aunt May who gives Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, that type of advice and quotes like that. And he misses her obviously because throughout this film he's always buying flowers and leaving it by the her grave. And it just seems like throughout this film he's purposely distracting himself through his true feelings with just being Spider-Man, his alter ego in this film. And that sets up the tone where it's not like dark and gritty. It's just he's just sad. This is like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3 where Tobey Maguire was like in emo mode. This is his version of the emo mode where he's not emo and doing the little dance thing. But he's sad as Elena in this film has called him a sad little spider. And I love that part. But that's how they set the tone for him. But we do get the best of seeing the best features of Spider-Man thanks to Tom Holland. And it emotionally pays off as we see him struggle being Peter Parker and and living the superhero life as he's bruised up, he gets cut a little, he's got cuts, probably bullet wounds now, and he has to always resew his costume. And throughout the seasons, you know he has to improvise a lot, and I really like that too because you know he's doing this all by himself. I mean literally all by himself now. And I think that's really unique because this elevates Spider-Man in a new way that we actually haven't seen as far as the MCU. Because throughout the three Spider-Man films starring Tom Holland, he's always had help, whether it's from Iron Man, Doctor Strange, or multi different variants Spider-Mans which is Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. They're Spider-Man variants who showed up and helped him. This is somewhat of a first time that he's doing it on his own. And yes, he does have assists. He does team up with the Punisher and the NYPD detective Gene Wolf and stuff, but it's not as exactly the same the way Tony Stark and Doctor Strange has helped him. One of my favorite things is it's wintertime and he's facing a scorpion. He's just fighting scorpion, and it's cold outside. And I believe it's snowing. I can't remember if it was snowing or not, but it was cold. But he wore the winter vest on his Spider-Man suit and a cap on his mask because obviously, again, he doesn't have the Stark tech where his suit had built-in heaters, right? Because if you remember Spider-Man Homecoming, he fell in the water and he was cold, and his suit just activated a heater mode and it warmed him up. But he don't have that. so he has to improvise. But I love that scene about that because there is a comic book, and I can't remember what comic book, but I just remember he was wearing that. And also, I just like that scene too because I was laughing my ass off about this. Is Spider-Man? There was just it's very like Bugs Bunny, Looney Tune type feel in this moment, but there was a one of those big pianos, those fancy pianos, and it was in the back of like a U-Haul truck. And Spider-Man, uses his webs and he yanks that piano back and he hits Scorpion right behind him. Bang! Sends his ass to jail. Right? That's how it went. And I just love that. I love that. But also too, like, Spider-Man's grabbing like random thugs and swinging them back to the police station, you know. And then we see, which I was really sad that we didn't get to see Tombstone. We saw Tombstone played by Marvin Jones the third, but I was so sad that he was only in that one scene. I was hoping that he would be like the main boss, but he is a crime lord, which I think now they could just do something with him in the futures, which I hope Sony and Marvel Studios will use that character more, uh, whether for Spider-Man or just do I guess a Disney Plus spin-off series if possible, or a movie. But that'd be cool. I think he's got a really awesome origin story, and I think that I think it could work. I think that villain may not be on a lot of people's bingos cards for a solo movie, but seeing Tombstone and seeing Marvin Jones the third play this character, I think honestly a solo movie origin story of him could possibly work. I mean, this could be like Marvel's version of Power or like The Godfather type, but it can be Marvel's version. I really think there's potential with that. So that's why I was so sad to see him in that one scene. But I do like the fact that he was holding Spider-Man by the costume over his throat or whatever. And he's like, "How long would it take you to hit the ground?" And then Spider-Man like laid the smack down on him. But it was pretty funny. I like that. And then also in this movie too, we see like they're showing where Ned and MJ have grown up happy. They're starting their journey in college and they're living together in an apartment. And Spider-Man is always on checking Ned's like social media, which would probably be like Instagram or TikTok, something like that. But I don't know if they can say those names in the movie without permission. But it's basically on a social media page and he's following them. And Ned's just blogging, not blogging, but vlogging his stories and stuff. And it's just fun. And he misses them. Even like Ned had tried to grow a goatee, and that was just funny. I was like, whoa, 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 don't do that. Could he be the goblin? I don't know. But it was that gave me the sign like he could be a villain. And when you saw the goatee on Ned's chin, I was like, oh yeah, they're definitely thinking about making Ned Spider-Man's best friend, the hobgoblin. Like, let's go. Do it. Do it, Sony. Do it, Mr. Kevin Feige. Please make that happen. But they're happy, and that's when we get this sequence of what I thought was just amazing. Spider-Man, closes his phone and he runs and puts down his mask and he jumps off this building. And what's my favorite scene is, which they showed this in the trailer, of course, is you're seeing through Spider-Man's eyes, but not his eyes, but the mask, you know, of his eyes. And to me, this felt like the Spider-Man video games, Marvel Spider-Man 1 and 2, and the Miles Morales one as well. But it gave me that vibe, like the way he was swinging, the way like tried to jump across other buildings. Sometimes he don't land on his feet. Sometimes he just rolls down, but he can crawl walls and stuff. And he does it so cool. It's like the Toy Story 1 movie where Buzz Lightyear's like, "I'm flying," and Woody's like, "No, you're just falling with style." Like, you know? And that's what I like about it. It was just Spider-Man was just falling sometimes with style. And also in this film too, we started to see that a crime happened and he starts and we see Scorpion again. And this time the D damage of Department of Damage Control were trying to collect something, and we see this mystery character, which is Sadie Sinks, who's what I'm just gonna say now. She is playing Jean Grey, aka from the X Men. She is the MCU's version of Jean Grey, which I kind of knew it was, but I was hoping it wasn't. I thought no, not hoping, but I couldn't believe she would be it. I don't think they would go that route, but honestly, and I'll talk more about it, but I think this is the best direction. At first, I was kind of like in the theaters, kind of like, what is this? But then at the end of this, I was like, oh, that totally makes sense. And I'm glad that this is Jean Grey from the X Men, but this is the MCU debut. And I don't think it's a bad thing. But I will say, I think that now I wish they didn't as a marketing strategy, I wish they didn't just keep it a secret. I wish they just came out straightforward with it and say Sadie Sink is playing Jean Grey and Spider-Man Brand New Day. I think that just I wish they would have done it because I think people would have still seen it, and the way it's right now very successful in ticket sales. So it didn't. Now I realize Marvel keeping that a secret, I would have made a difference. Because there's other things they kept secrets about in here that I'll talking about soon. So in this film, we get introduced to Frank Castle, the Punisher, which he was so funny in this, hilarious, and he was slightly comedy, but not bad, based on like if you saw the Punisher special on the Disney Plus special. You know, this one's he's a little bit toner down, but not too bad. And honestly, the only cuss word they covered up was the F bomb. But throughout this, he said every cuss word, not every cuss word. That's a little exaggerating, but he said a lot of curse words enough to say, oh, okay, they're not changing Frank Castle for Sony or Spider-Man ratings. Like he's staying, but they changed him a little bit, but I don't think it's bad. But seeing him team up and seeing them work together was really neat. They try to take down this military tank as we learn that it was possessed by Jean Grey as she can just teleport through people's like bodies and using other people and use them as like to talk too, like, and because when they finally catch that, there was an older lady, old woman in there, and she couldn't remember why. But eventually they got Scorpion and stuff, and but she got away. But it was really interesting that what I liked about that scene is we get to the helicopter and there's this person she possessed, which is the guy who flies the helicopter. And I love how Spider-Man can is so quick on his feet as coming up with a plan to stop what she was trying to do. But he learned automatically through mathematics that from a certain amount of distance, which I can't remember the number, she can't pull that off. She has to be close enough, but if she's too far, she can't make that telepathic jump to another body. And honestly, I like the small details because to me in this movie, they use the regular common people in a Marvel film better in this film. And I liked how when she does jump, if there's people in her way, they get bumped. They get bumped. Sorry, I moved from the mic. They get bumped. And then when she picks the person, they kind of flinch or fall down or like what's going on, and then they can't remember what's going on. So Jean Greg was a badass in this, And you didn't know she was Jean Grey until you get closer to the end of the film, of course. But they kept that a mystery. But I gotta say, by the first 5 minutes of this film, when you see that, it was pretty obvious this was going to be Jean Grey because it just had her powers and abilities. Is This is exactly what she does, especially if you're watching X Men '97. But she didn't show all her power abilities, and obviously they're saving that for the X Men movies and stuff. So, with all that being said, this was honestly, now that I've seen it, I'm so glad that they started her off just like this. Also in that scene too, we see that after Spider-Man stopped the guy flying the helicopter because he was possessed by Jean Grey. She mentions like, "Did you even check the tank?" And a big bomb exploded. And the whole point is she is looking for her sister Sarah Grey, who did not. I guess I guess she's not alive, but I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. I don't think she's dead, right? I think I think there's something more, but we'll get into that later. But she assumes right now she's alive because this word VMAX is being thrown around, and we'll talk about that later. But the bomb explodes, and then we see the detective Jean Wolf. I hope I said her name correctly. No, I apologize. It's actually Jean D. Wolf, and she's a NYPD detective again, and she asks her what's going on. Asks Spider-Man, "How does this happen? What's going on?" And he couldn't figure it out, but he told her like, "Hey, I know a person who can help me," and he visits Yelena in a hot like a, I don't know if you call that a sauna room or a hot tub room or a hot bathroom. I don't know what you call it really. But this is the thing that people have been talking about before the movie came out. There was rumor there was a quote unquote nude scene with these two. And technically, yes, she was nude, but Spider Man wore his underwear and kept the mask on. And she always called him a sad little spider. But they're just talking, and there's this thing she's saying, like, "Why should I help you? I don't do little potatoes, I do big potatoes." Right? But she mentions this VMAX, right? And I just thought, okay, that's neat. That's an interesting word because I was thinking VMAX, and I'm thinking Hydra. I'm thinking Hydra. But Spider-Man, what I loved about this connection is they kind of did a, not a throwback, but they brought up the movie, the Black Widow movie, where how the Red Room does the mind control to the ladies at times, right? And I think that was the important thing that they were mentioning. But they also talk about what was going on, and they didn't couldn't figure anything out, but it really helped Spider-Man. But one funny thing is Elena is getting ready to talk, and she jumps up, and her chest was about to show, and Spider-Man puts his feet up. And I just love that too. And the way when Frank Castle was gonna say mother, you know what? Spider-Man shoots his mouth with web. So I love the Spider-Man comedy censorship to it. And those are the funny things about that. But seeing Elena in this scene, I said in my non-spoiler review, and I'll say it again in here, is I it logically doesn't make sense why, because it's like they're in a, like a hot tub or like a sauna room type thing, and it's in a shop. But what was interesting is it does fit in because it doesn't overstep the main plot of this movie. and it doesn't overstep the side story of the movie, which the side story to the movie is Ned and MJ and Spider-Man, right? Because you'll see in this film that that whole story of that really takes a back burner. But I guess it has to, because there were so many other things that were going on in this film, which is the main plot, which is Jean Grey is the main plot of this film. But what I do like about Elena is this is showing that, to me, this is what I'm indicating to, is these two are going to be working together more, and we're going to see these two characters cross over as much as they can, as much as Sony will allow that. But it's the start of what I think the young Avengers are going to look like. I think I know there's a lot of cancellations, but I still believe the Young Avengers is the next step. But I also understand that that may not come as, not in, I wouldn't say in 2028 or even 2030, because I believe the more focus is now because of Jean Grey showing up in this film. We're going to see the X-Men more. The mutant saga really begins in that point. But because of that, in this film, they go back and Spider-Man starts investigating, and we see so much going on. When I say, like, MJ and Ned don't really feel important, even though MJ should be the important thing because she is the girlfriend or ex-girlfriend. Because in this scene, Detective Jean DeWolf is on the phone with Spider-Man, and I really liked how they're allies, but they become friends and stuff, and they don't know each other. Well, she don't know Spider-Man's identity, but you know, they know each other, and she's always worried about him, saying, you need to chill, you need to rest, because in this film too, Spider-Man's DNA is mutating. Where I was so sad and disappointed a little bit that they didn't make him mutate into that man spider. Like, throughout the whole teaser trailer and official trailer to Spider-Man Brand New Day and other promotions, I really felt like he was going to turn into a man spider. And I wanted to see that, and they didn't do it because he built a device that could somewhat compress. But we'll talk about why I believe it didn't mess up, because when and I understand why he did it, because in this film, as he loses control, he's waking up in a cocoon. Now he doesn't need customized web shooters. Now his body has mutated to like Toby Maguire, where he has naturally born web shooters coming out his actual wrist, right? So he don't need to do that. And I love how they did a montage or a homage to Toby Maguire when Spider-Man was testing all that out, because he tried to do this and it wasn't working. And just like Tobey Maguire, when he finally figured out that he has to throw his whole arm or wrist to do it, or this MCU version, Tom Holland was having the same struggles of using his webs, and stuff. So I love that. And this one was cooler too, because I like when his eyes turn black, and he laid the smackdown on round two with Scorpion. And he was possessed by Jean Grey, but oh my gosh, he injured a cop. Spider-Man injured a cop and didn't need the symbiote suit because his DNA is making him stronger like this. Bang, bang. But it made him shocked, and he had to leave. He had to go because now the cops are scared of him, because he took Scorpion's mechanic tail and just whipped him around. And Scorpion was scared. Like, my favorite part is when he took the webs, swung up, and he dropped, like, just did a missile kick, drop kick, as they call it in wrestling, and smashed his chest. Like, he was down and out and he had blood. But he had to get away and he ran and he was trying to figure it out. But this is where we get to, like, the introduction again, the reintroduction of Mark Ruffalo's, aka Bruce Banner, the Hulk, as he's a college professor at ESU, which I don't know if that's a real college or not, but I'm just gonna just guess it's a fictional college in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I don't really know. I honestly don't know if that's a real college, and I didn't look it up. But we see that Bruce Banner has this gadget that can maintain him being the Hulk. So he's not even smart Hulk. And I'm glad the smart Hulk is over. I appreciate the smart Hulk for the purpose of Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. That makes sense because what Thanos was a big threat and stuff. But that thing is gone. I love She-Hulk. I say it again. I love the She-Hulk series, and I hope they never cancel it. And if they did cancel it, they need to uncancel it and do season 2 of She-Hulk because that was an amazing series, and I haven't given up on her. And I like the actress who plays She-Hulk, and I'm gonna live on that moat hill for life. Now, he makes up this fake name, and when she noticed too, when he visits MJ, he makes up a fake name. And so the reason why he's coming to Hulk is because he's trying to say, in theory, could this and this and happen if you compress a certain amount, but only keep the good parts and keep down the bad part. And he said that would be amazing. It had to be a universal like machine. And Spider-Man did pull it off. Now, the reason why he's trying to do that, because if you remember in this movie, he went and visited MJ and Ned had like a apartment or a housewarming party, but it was an apartment, I believe. Don't know. But and we see him just being Peter Parker, but it's like he's like just seeing him, he misses him, and then that evil spider mutation monster kicks in because some MJ has a new boyfriend. And at first I was like, is this the Hobgoblin? Is this the Green Goblin? I don't know. But I think his name is Nate Dogg or just Nate. But Ned called him Nate Dogg. I didn't call him Nate Dogg. Ned did that. So I don't know, but I'm sensing Hobgoblin, Green Goblin vibes of the MCU version of that. And it's gonna be one. But this is where Spider-Man's love life gets extremely complicated. But I think it's good because at the end of this, I'll tell you why I want that to happen now, continuing to complicate their love life for other reasons. But Spider-Man has took Bruce Banner's advice, and you know what I meant want to bring point out too is before Bruce Banner realized that he's not really one of his students, he told Peter Parker, Spider-Man, that what if maybe what you need to do is unleash it and let it out, which I realized later in this film that I believe that Bruce Banner has regretted keeping the Hulk locked up for way too long. Think about it. He has kept the Hulk locked up since hmm, Avengers Endgame. And he's been smart Hulk for the longest. Think about it. And then he's built a machine to compress the Hulk. And I think, and this was really clever of Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige and the director of Spider-Man Brand New Day to pull this off, is the fact that I think now, deep down inside now in this era, we're Bruce Banner regrets that, and I think he wants to unleash the Hulk. That's what I got out of that, and I was correct later on in that film because as I'm watching this, right, as they're going through it, we got to go back to Damage of Control, Department of Damage Control. This Bill guy met Bill met Ziegler, and I hope I said his name right. Is a the lead officer of this group, and he's a liar. He's tricked Spider-Man and making sound like Jean Grey was a big threat, and technically she is because she is the Dark Phoenix. Let's never forget that. But in this moment, they were wrong, and now honestly, I just gotta be honest, and it's gonna sound really negative. Is the only reason why this Bill guy lied to Spider-Man and tricked him because Spider-Man has so much on his plate. And when his DNA mutated, you notice his Spidey sense wasn't really working. And so they tricked him. And but when finally, and in this film, Spider Man does finally figure that out and stuff. But this damage of control is pretty much art imitating life, and this is the type of crap that he pulled off on Spider-Man because Jean Grey, for being different, they locked her up and they wanted to use her for good use. Which it's just a nice way of saying they want to police the superheroes, which they've been doing that since, well, Captain America Civil War. Like it's been like that. Also in this film, Jean Grey kidnaps MJ and has Spider-Man run around through New York looking for her, and they get top of this roof, and this is where Spider-Man realized Jean Grey is possessed. MJ is after they kiss, and Spider-Man starts crying, and he's like, "You're a simple spider." He's been saying this too because she found a way to his house. She found out that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Jean Grey she's smart, funny, pretty, and everything, and she could be a villain. And now, in comic book, she becomes the Dark Phoenix. So she gave up that Dark Phoenix vibes too, but she's angry because this is now her. I just can't. I'm just so shocked that, and I'm happy. I'm really happy that they're starting the mutant saga within this film. Like, here's the seed, little seed, little seed, little seed, and after she does that, Spider Man's like, "What do you want? What do you want? I'll do what you need. Leave her alone." And she has a personal driver, which is not. She just possesses somebody, and say, "You gotta meet up here." So Spider Man has Punisher hide MJ at his secret layout, which is just a boat and stuff. And that's this scene throughout where Punisher's hideout is at. I liked it, but I think too. I don't know why they kind of rushed where MJ was like, "Who's this?" It was just Punish Frank Castle's a family, but he's like, "Don't touch anything, don't even touch this chili." And he was just, you know, it. But I thought, oh, we're not going to hear him tell the story. Now, if you watch, the Punisher show from the Netflix to Daredevil Netflix, and then the Born Again, and then the Punisher special, you kind of know Frank Castle's origin story, or you should. If you haven't, check it out. Check it out. But this is where I like the fact that MJ already wants to be friends with Frank Castle, the manager. And I like too that MJ and Spider Man bonded. And this is where we get to the part where she finds that letter that he's wrote, and this was a tearjerker. And after she told Spider-Man that she don't love him because she's not her, that version of her, because again, Doctor Strange erased everybody's memory, and it was quiet, dead silent. I got to bring up this side story. So I'm watching this film right in the movie theaters, and there's a family in front of me, and I believe this guy, I don't never met him and I never talked to him, but there's a scene where MJ was like, "Hey, I don't have my cell phone. Can you take me home?" Because and this is after MJ's like, "This is why we can't be together. Where I don't love you the way you love me." And she asked for Peter Parker, Spider-Man, to give him a ride back. And this guy in the movie theater just screamed, "Hell no!" And everybody was laughing because when I watched it, it was full pack, and everybody was just enjoying this movie. But it was just funny that guy in the movie theater was screaming, "Hell no!" And everybody laughed. Everybody laughed. It was so funny. So we get to that, and this is after the scene. This is Well, I kind of went too far, but this is after the scene where say Jean Grey possesses the Hulk, and this is the return of the Hulk. And I love that Spider-Man Frank Castle tried to take him on and they couldn't. And this is where Jean Grey gets captured thanks to Spider-Man, his help, and Frank Castle, the Punisher. But I like the fact that again, Bruce Banner, he had a chance to put that device on his neck and control the Hulk, but he chose not to. Because I'm so glad now they made this character make Bruce Banner guilty for doing to the Hulk, and I want to keep Savage Hulk forever. No more smart Hulk moving forward. Please, Kevin Feige. Please, please, please. That was I loved it. I love Smart Hulk. It made sense. But that Thanos story is over now, I think. But we need Savage Hulk. And I get it. It's hard to make any Hulk movie where all he does is smash, smash. But I think sometimes we need those type of movies, especially in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And now I want to see this Hulk fight the Red Hulk. Please, Kevin Feige, please, please, please. But that's what I think needs to happen. I'm so glad. And look, in that fight scene, it was funny. Bullets don't hurt Hulk. Frank Castle got scared, but this is where Spider-Man in this film realized he was tricked, and that throughout this film he finally resaves Jean Grey. But this is after the fact that Jean Grey realized that, uh, as they call it, TV Max, yeah, or VMAX, VMAX, that's the word, VMAX. It was just something the last thing Sarah Gregg saw because the test they were doing on Jean Grey was forcing her brain to use the mutation power, and it must have killed her sister, Sarah Gregg. But I don't buy that. I don't buy it at all. Just wait, watch. But to me, I love this because Jean Grey wasn't helpless. She wasn't the damsel in distress, and I like that. But my favorite scene is when Spider-Man goes back and gets her and stuff, and she's like, "I'm finally gonna go into your brain and know your memories," and because she's gotten stronger and stuff. And you gotta remember, she controlled the hand, right? And all that, and Spider-Man still got to her, but she got more powerful. Again, I like that because they're building it up, and they're definitely gonna do the Dark Phoenix saga again. which I think the MCU is going to do it better and a little bit differently, I hope. But in this, we see that it was a very emotional. So instead of the scene where they go throwback, where you see Aunt May talking to Spider Man about great power comes great responsibilities, Spider Man's Aunt May got to talk to Jean Grey and had that conversation with her. And this is where I liked it because Spider Man is like the big brother, the role model, and kind of like this is the beginning of him being the leader of the Avengers, Spider Man, which I don't think that's a bad idea. And that makes storyline that makes sense because Iron Man's not there and Charles Xavier of the MCU has not shown up yet. And so Spider Man makes sense, right? And this is where she becomes the good guy, the hero. And this is where I thought was really interesting. But I at first I was kind of like, no, why? But then it makes sense. But Frank Castle set up a sniper shot and he don't miss. But Spider-Man Spider Sense let him know and he took that bullet. And they did a classic thing in the comic books. There's a comic book where Spider-Man's in the hospital and people are so sad, right? But they're all the fans of Spider-Man of New York are standing outside with the little candles and the kids with the little posters, and they redid that in a live action. The Spider-Man survived, and Frank Castle stayed by his side through the whole time. And when he woke up, he Frank Castle reassured that nobody saw Spider-Man take off his mask. This was the first time Frank Castle saw Spider-Man without his mask. So now he knows two guys in red suits, without their mask. And he helped him escape by putting on the mask and tricking the crowd so Spider-Man can just walk outside and nobody noticed him. And I thought that was really cool and nice because we're seeing again, we can't keep Frank Castle. I know they're going to keep him crazy and traumatized from his family obviously. But now we got to get Frank Castle, the Punisher, to another character growth, and I think they did that really well with this. To me personally, and I don't think it's wrong to soften him up just a little bit, but we got to see now that Punisher realizes, like, oh wait, I almost lost a good guy because I made a dumb decision. And the one thing throughout these years is even Daredevil's been trying to tell Frank Castle, like, killing is not the answer, right? And it took Spider-Man to show him his wrong. And I like that because he apologized and he cried just a little bit. So I think that was more important. And I did also like too that, even though this was the back burner, but MJ, Ned, and Spider-Man hung out. And I just want to point out too, like, this is the most time I've seen Spider-Man with the mask on the most, as far as the MCU. Yeah, he has taken it off, and we see Tom Holland's face, of course. But this is the most he kept it on without just taking it off freely. Is what I'm just saying. That's pretty cool. So after that all ends, it seems like everybody's moving on. Spider-Man has figured it out, and him and Ned did the handshake thing, and Ned realized like this is Spider-Man that they was hanging out with, and so that's cool. Now let's talk about the post credit scene. And it's just the app that Ned created where it tracks Spider-Man. And apparently he's somewhere else in outer space. So let's talk about that. Well, this is what I think. I think it has more to do with Avengers Secret Wars because the way, and I could be wrong. I'd be okay if Spider-Man's MCU Spider-Man shows up in Avengers Doomsday, of course. I would not be mad at that. But I think that if there was going to be a Spider-Man in that Avengers Doomsday movie, and this is why I think the MCU Spider-Man is going to actually just show up in Avengers Secret Wars, is because I think the way they're setting up Avengers Doomsday is a lot of callbacks to the OG Marvel characters from before there was an MCU, before there was an Iron Man. And obviously, this is going to focus more on two Captain Americas, a Bucky Barnes, a Thor, two different versions of X Men, and the fact that at San Diego Comic Con, Ryan Reynolds showed up in a Deadpool as the Gray Deadpool outfit or Jean Grey Deadpool outfit. It indicates that he could be in that movie. And honestly, there's so much going on. They got Gambit, Shang-Chi. Like, is there really room for Tom Holland Spider-Man? Yes and no. I'm more betting on the fact that I could be wrong, and I don't care if I'm wrong, but I'm predicting that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is going to be in Avengers Doomsday, and Tom Holland's MCU Spider-Man is going to be in Avengers Secret Wars. I think you can have two different variants Spider-Mans in two different films. That's what I that ending post credit scene to me that I got the feeling or impression of, right? Because he passed the moon. And that's like, yes, it is kind of leading up to Doctor Doom as the whole movie, but I think this one's more Avengers Secret Wars, in my opinion. Just saying. Now, let's just go back to the movie. Let's talk about the cameos. Punisher and Hulk cameos were awesome, and I'm glad that they had extended scenes, especially Punisher and the Hulk, because they gave us so much out of those two, and it meant a lot in certain ways. Like for example, the Punisher and Spider-Man team up was really cool because it's like it's a duo we all see in comic books and cartoons, and we finally see in live action. But like, for Punisher, if you watch any like if you watch the show or the special, it's always kids that remind him of his kids. So I think Spider-Man reminds Punisher of his a Punisher's son. Like if his family wasn't, murdered, I think Punisher deep down inside would hope his son would grow up to be like Peter Parker or Spider-Man. How, you know what I'm saying? In the sense of just being alive, happy, kind of nerdy, kind of dorkish, not this dark life that Punisher lives. And so the regret that he's seen after he shot him by accident, he was trying to shoot Jean Grey, made him realize that's not what his wife would want him to do. That's not who he wants to see his kids want him to be. And that's an eye opener. I like that. Number two, I just like for Hulk, I just like again they brought back the Hulk being Savage Hulk. And I like the fact that in this movie, Bruce Banner regrets holding the Hulk and locking him up that long inside for a long time. I like that. I'm disappointed that they didn't have Daredevil because the way they did the hand, It was just so I was a little disappointed about it. I just thought they could have done something a little bit better. But as I forgive him because when Jean Grey possessed them, mind controlled them, all of them, they had a cool fighting sequence, like ninja style fighting Spider-Man. And that's I like that scene because he was like, "No, I'm both. I'm Peter Parker and Spider-Man," and he finally controlled the his new mutation powers, right? Because this whole movie is about like, why are you trying to not be who you truly are? And this is where Spider-Man became Spider-Man. We saw character growth in Spider-Man because of stuff like that. So I forgive him for that, but I was really hoping for Daredevil to show up, be in that prison, but it wasn't that type of prison, which I'm shocked. I'm shocked. I'm shocked. But I'm okay with that. The main plot, again, I loved it. I love the main plot. And though the thing though, again, like the main plot is really this good because the MJ and Ned friendship story had to take the back burner for the rest of the film to do successful, to tell a really good story. So I forgive him on that and I'm okay with that because the fact that MJ and Spider-Man did not reunite as officially boyfriend and girlfriend because she's committed to her new boyfriend, which, we don't like. But this gives an opportunity to explore other love life. Like, if you remember when in the scene, there's this blonde girl that lived in the same apartment building and stuff, but she kind of had a crush, kind of digged him, and he ended up accidentally wearing her like shirt and these sweatpants that says "juicy" because he woke up naked, not butt naked, but in his underwear in a spider cocoon and stuff. So I like that, and I like the fact that she could be somebody. We don't know her name, or I don't remember her saying her name in that film, but I hope this is the start of seeing Felicia Hardy, aka Black Cat, and the love relationship between her and Spider-Man and stuff. That's what I'm hoping. And I think it's time for that. I'd rather see that versus him having the I know you're all gonna hate on it, but I'd rather see that type of story versus the Venom symbiote thing. Like, if Spider-Man was gonna have the Venom symbiote, they might as well just have it start in Avengers Secret War. That to me makes sense. And I know you rather see that now, but to me it doesn't make sense story wise, you know, to me. But I'm okay with that. I'm also sad we didn't see a scene where he does turn into a man spider, from the cartoons, like where he has like six arms and his whole head is a giant spider and he has the eyeballs going down and a scary mouth and but I see why they didn't do it too because like, well, no, they could have done it. Instead of Craven the Hunter, it'd probably be Frank Castle the Punisher that would have to stop him. And but who would figure? But I wonder who would figure out the antidote to save him. And I guess it would have been a Bruce Banner and stuff. That would make sense. But yeah, so I am kind of disappointed that we didn't see Spider-Man literally turn into a man spider type creature. But not a big deal on that because there's always time to go back and answer that story or do that story. Just like the Venom story. There's always time to finally go back to that and have a Spider-Man solo film where that actually happens. And also too, I will say I like about this film, they tease Miles Morale. It's either that little boy at the end of the movie when Spider-Man's like sneaking away from the fans and the little kid's like "Psh, psh, psh, whip, whip," or it's the detective's son in that film, which I think it would work. But there's so many they can do. So they left so much opening and teased so much throughout the film and just told a great story. So, was this a good movie? Yes, it was. Was it like, did it save the Marvel Cinematic Universe? No, I think that's up to the Avengers movies. When you say the MCU is back, I think the only way that can truly mean something if it has to be an Avengers movie because the Avengers movie, the MCU is literally based off the Avengers. Like the MCU is built to lead up to a Avengers movie, not a solo film for each individual character. So no, it's not. Spider-Man didn't do it like that. But this film is, as I gave it a 10 out of 10. This is a 10 out of 10 movie. Really done well. Visually looks good. The acting was good. The characters make sense. We saw new sides of Spider-Man that no other Spider-Man live action has really gotten to until this. And to see him go from where he's at now to this level, where now we're finally seeing Spider-Man be Spider-Man and do Spider-Man superhero stuff. And they finally got to this point, and it took 4 MCU Spider-Man films, but we finally did it. They finally did it, I should say. So this was such a good movie, and honestly, it didn't give too much of Doctor Doom's or Avengers Doomsday vibes, but the idea that Spider-Man's either going to be a part of it is good enough for me. But I'm still saying he's going to be at Avengers Secret Wars. So, but that's my opinion. But that is my spoiler review, y'all. Thank you so much. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Great Talking Entertainment Official Channel. Subscribe, hit that notification button so you can always be updated with all my latest content. Thank you guys, and peace out.